Welcome to the Elevated Coach Podcast. I am your host, Joel Burgess, and it is my goal that with this podcast, you are fueled with all the tools, techniques, strategies, systems, and insights to become more potent and powerful in your coaching and more profitable in your business. The podcast is a mix of solo episodes and interviews with incredible coaches doing amazing things. I really hope that you enjoyed today's show, and if you do, go ahead and share it with a coach that you think would benefit from it. Let's get stuck in and sending you so much love. We're live with the amazing Nina, one of my favorite humans in the world. And I'm really excited by this conversation, and probably need to start with this, maybe a few fucks that are going to be said. So let's just get that out there, because sometimes you just need to say fuck, don't you? And I feel like it's needed sometimes. Anyway, we have a tradition on this podcast that the last guest asks the first question. So it means that I have absolutely no idea where the podcast is going to go, which I like dancing in. And the last guest, Megan, the amazing Megan, asked a very shallow question. What does love mean to you?
Hello. What does love mean to me? Oh, interesting, because my mouth's gone really dry, but my heart, I can feel it beating in my chest. So it's almost like love means to me something more than I can verbalize. It's almost like vocabulary and word. But if I was to really listen to my heart right now and ask myself, what does love mean to me? Gosh, I would just imagine just limitlessness, expansiveness, never endingness, like there is no beginning and no end. And so when I love and I am loved, I don't ever kind of go, oh, it began then and it ended then. It just kind of just feels like this evolutionary circle that goes around, a bit like the sun going around the moon, and the stars in the sky, who knows when they began or how long or when they're going to end. It's just there. So there's so much in that, but it is like I can feel my heart booming. It is just that joy, and it's just like joy overload. It's like when I love and I'm loved, I love the same. I love my dogs the same as I love you, the same as I love my kids, the same as I love the world, the same as I love the bees that are out there buzzing around in the lavender. Like for me, there isn't really much of a difference. I love and I am loved. It doesn't have a category, even though it might feel different. It's just love. And that's my answer.
It's so beautiful. I love it, and it's so true. It feels very aligned with the very first sentence of the Tao Te Ching, which says, "The Tao that can be named is not the Tao." And it's what you're saying. Really, it's like the love that can be named is not the love, because you just can't put words to it. It's you try and describe presence, but you can't. It's because as soon as you try and describe it, you're out of it.
Yeah.
It's a sense. So I just loved your answer. I'm really curious, what fuels you? Because you have a love of life. I get that sense from you, right? You have a love of life. What fuels that love of life?
I've got one word: death. I don't take for granted the fact that this suit, we could go into all the other realms and all that, that's another whole conversation. I'm 51, age doesn't matter. And you hear it's quite cliched, you get to a certain point in your life where you kind of know, okay, how many summers are there? How many more birthdays? How many more Christmases? How many more solstice? How many more equinox? And that fuels me. I don't want to waste a single moment, a single nanosecond, a single day, if I am more focused on the things that I can't have, the things that aren't working, the things that don't light me up, the things that went wrong in the past, all the hiccups that I have been through and will go through. I really want to live in the now. And that for
Mm-hmm.
me really helps me switch into kind of like this total burst and bubble of energy. That's like a fire, Joel, that burns within me that I can't put out even if I want to, because time, there's the sand of time, like there is that hourglass. And for
Mm-hmm.
many people that might feel quite a morbid, difficult conversation. My mum died very, very unhappy, incredibly, deeply unfulfilled. I know that. And that makes me really sad, really, really sad. And I know it's not just her, I know lots of people. And I am just on an absolute mission to live so fully that I die empty.
Mm.
And that's what fuels me.
But again, there's I think a quote that we live two lives, the one where we're born and the one where we realize we're going to die. And
Yeah.
yeah, I think sometimes when we need to have that realization to really start living, when you see the finitude of things, it's like Christmas. Why do we love Christmas so much? Because it happens once a year. It comes and it goes. But like that's the same with our physical body here,
Mhm.
right? It's like it comes and it goes. And I think that's such a beautiful answer. One of my favorite books of all time is a book called In Love with the World, by a Buddhist monk called Yongey Mingyur Rinpoche. And the whole book is essentially where he actually allowed his physical death, and he actually did die, in hospital, but they brought him back to life. And that was his enlightenment, where there was no fear at that point, where, if you fear life, you fear living, right? It's kind of what I hear you saying. And you realize and you have that moment. Yeah. And what's, what does it feel like to you? I hear this, just like this thirst and this longing just to like experience all of the amazing possibilities available to us. But what does it feel like to you? You use those word wasting. Like, what does that feel like to you when you're wasting life, and how do you notice that?
I was living that. It comes
Mm,
from very personal experience for me, and of course that will look different for everyone. So I'll speak from my own personal experience. We have so many gifts as humans. We're so gifted in so many ways, and yet the construct of life and grow up, go to school, go to further education, then go to uni, then maybe get married or not, maybe have kids or not, then kind of work for a long time, then retire. And I was, like many people, I believe, on living just on autopilot. And until I was about 46, I hadn't discovered personal development, self-development, call it whatever you will, your own personal journey. And I had absolutely no level of emotional awareness, self-awareness. And I was kind of just a shell going through the motions. I was deeply unhappy on the inside, but I just wasn't able to express that because I honestly thought this is what it's supposed to look like. And all of that feeling of, yeah, but I know there's something else. I know there's something more for me. I know I should be out there doing something. And I felt like a fizzing and a buzzing in my body. And then I would just ignore it and just drink or whatever, go out and party and have a lot of fun at the weekend, just explode.
mm,
Because it was just my way of dealing with like this niggle, this fire that I kind of reference as there's something out there. And again, I think very much influenced by my upbringing. I had parents who, bless them, they're not alive anymore, but we never shared our emotions. We never spoke to each other about what we were going through as human beings. I just looked at my mum, deeply unhappy, didn't understand why, thought it was me. And I just decided, oh, that's how you're supposed to live. You just get up every day, do the thing, come home from the thing, then you eat tea, then you watch telly, then you go to bed. Like, that was it. And it wasn't until my 40s happened. Well, I do actually. It was reading the book "You're a Badass" by Jen Sincero, and my brother had sent it to me because I was on a one woman self destruct mission. I was in quite a dark space, and I was reading all of her words about spirit, source, energy, vibration, frequency, and I was like, "Oh, this is it." I've just never known how to express it, and so I munched that book like a bowl of Frosties. Like those sugary things. We love Frosties, don't we?
Oh.
Very naughty, but so nice. And that was like the flame was lit. That book, it was just like the match was struck, and then the bonfire was like, right, okay, that's how you're supposed to feel. That's what it's all about. It's about radical responsibility. And then, of course, the massive contraction. I don't want to do that. Don't want to take responsibility for having to live a great life. That's hard work. That means I've got to look at myself and deal with myself and answer really hard questions. I don't want to do that. I'm just going to stay cruising down victim town because I loved being a victim because it got me the very thing that I desired most as a child, attention. Again, this is all insight. This is all awareness now that I am an adult. But my goodness, any attention is good attention, right? When you come from a background of never having your needs met as a child and then growing up into an adult, never dealing with that, bringing all of that baggage with you. So it felt like for me, it was like being inside the jar or was on the outside and everybody could read what the flavor was, but I didn't know on the inside because I was in it. Does that make sense?
Totally, yeah. And what kind of comes up for me, right, is that it, we can maybe hear that and think, oh, it's all sunshine and rainbows the other side, right? But it's like a different hard. Just another hard. And something I've noticed or had this insight recently of like how confronting I find myself in my full like power. Like I think I've gone through a phase recently where I've had to actually confront my greatness. I have had to confront like who I am capable of being. For me, that's actually my greatest fear. And I've always had this longing to be seen for who I am. Like truly, I've had such a deep longing. But the minute I am, I don't want it. It's like, oh, get off me. I feel my skin crawls. It's like, why is everyone looking at me? But I want it so much. I want to be seen in this full light. And I'm just really curious as to like your experience with that, because you're just a breath of fresh air to any room you walk into, and your energy is vibrant, it's infectious, and you bring everyone else up. But for a lot of people, I imagine it's very challenging and triggering, and that's often what quashes us, right? It's certainly true for me. I'm really curious as to how that experience has been for you in terms of slowly stepping into who you are now and like this beautiful, magical woman that you are. Like, tell me more about that experience.
When I was about 6, go dancing competition. My turn to go on the stage. I remember this like it was yesterday, and I went for it. Pretty much like you do. I was 6, so I can't remember what the song was, but I know I was going crazy. And when the music finished, there were some children pointing at me and laughing, and I didn't know why. And afterwards, I got told that my trousers were undone and my knickers were showing. I was flying without low without a license, and I felt so stupid. I felt so humiliated that again, all of these unconscious decisions, and it starts that early on, doesn't it? I can't be big. I can't be loud. I can't show off. I can't be bright. I can't shine. I can't have all of those things that I then kind of collected as a badge of honor as I grew up. But from that age of 6, that one experience was a moment that really shaped me making a decision that it wasn't safe for me to be my full self. Something bad was going to happen. And then I think growing up again, I've been on a tug of war, very much like yourself, of when I do step into a room when I was a teenager and I was that kind of very ballsy, vivacious, opinionated self. If there was somebody in that room that wasn't really okay with that, saw that as a threat, came to shut me down, again, that was another, oh, there you go, there's another tick in the box. Don't be loud, don't have an opinion, people won't like you. And it was all generated around that wanting to be liked, wanting to be loved. So there was like fullness. I'm going to be loud. I'm going to be me. I'm going to be bubbly. I'm going to be positive. I'm going to be happy. Everyone's going to love me. Oh no, one person didn't. So that means that story that I'm not allowed to do that and I'm not good enough if I do. And who am I? And okay, so it kind of jolt, it kind of chips away at you eventually. And without realizing it, I moved through life collecting evidence that it wasn't safe for me to be me. And so I learned how to wear a mask of somebody who was really that person, but just kept it under the radar. That's exhausting, by the way. That's freaking exhausting when you don't feel like you can shine. When you're just kind of like dimming yourself. Can you imagine the energy that takes the body? It's like kind of being gagged, isn't it? I just want to say something, but I can't. And there are lots of other experiences around that. And then as I've got older, as I've got wiser, as I've done so much work on myself and so many, healing and cord cutting and, child, wounds and mother wounds and all the areas that I've been brave enough to look at, which have been really, really painful, slowly but surely, it's like lifting a lid, like when the sun is coming up behind the clouds. It wasn't a one and done, poof, here I am, da da da. It's just been this gentle over time release of a ray of sunshine here and a ray of sunshine there from behind the clouds until now at midlife, in midlife, how bright I want to be every day. And there are obviously times I know how to walk into a room and be a certain level of myself, but my body and the work that I've done around my nervous system, about how safe I feel in who I am, now I never really get those feelings of doubt or fear around walking into a room and being too much, because I generally tend to only go to places and hang out with people who can fully embrace me in my bigness. And if somebody else feels threatened by that, that's okay. That's for them to go away and look at if they choose to. But I don't want to live my life anymore locked in a cage and I've got the key. I mean, how dull is that? And so that's my journey. It's been a slow uncovering over time. I also think kind of finding my husband, falling in love with like my love of my life, and him really accepting me fully, which I'd never had in a relationship with a man before. I was always trying to be something other than I really was. And again, I'm so lucky and so grateful and humbled by him and our relationship every day. But I think sometimes when we're thinking about somebody that's really fully expressed, it's almost like, give me the blueprint. Show me the 5 steps to being a fully expressed, authentic human. Wow, this is like 40 odd years of work. Maybe there's a book about that somewhere, but yeah, that's my journey with that. And just one more thing to add about that is I feel once you have started to feel and express yourself fully, it's very, very hard to go back and put yourself in the cage. Because this bit's really exciting and really fun. And as humans, we love fun. We came here to play. We were born as children, and that's the first thing that we do. And so I don't think I'm going to be going back to that old version of me anytime soon. It doesn't really feel that appealing.
Totally, yeah. And I want to stay on this topic, but a really quick tangent, because when you shared that story about when you were 6, it kind of brought up something as a dad with a young girl, Frankie, who is just like the wildest, most amazing little ball of energy. Like she is just the most beautiful spirit. And I'm curious, what advice would you give to me to, yeah, my approach as a dad is interfere as little as possible and teach nothing, actually just nurture. But there's parts of me and my wife that we're nervous, like we're scared of society quashing that spirit, because it is confronting at a younger age, that spirit. Sometimes she kind of scares kids off with her energy sometimes.
Mm.
I'm curious, before we come back to the topics, I've got so many questions for you. What advice you might have for me as a dad of my daughter? Yeah.
Mm. Oh gosh, there's something that I'm going to share that will divide opinion, and our children aren't ours.
Yeah, I totally agree.
Wow. When I first realized that, heard that, because obviously we're all kind of passed this down like a beautiful wave, it really struck me about when I look at my children and I think, they've got my personality traits, this, and they're doing that because of that. And they, are they frightening children off? And how much micromanagement I was trying to implement on them to shape them and mold them. And when I really understood this idea, this kind of concept of our children aren't ours, it gave me almost like a permission slip to just let go and trust. And that is such a difficult thing to do as a parent. I mean, my
Exactly.
goodness, it's such a conflict, isn't it? Oh, I just stop doing everything and they turn out okay. And I have, as you know, I have two daughters and they are 23 and 19, and they're epic. And actually, there's been a lot of confronting situations where, like you, particularly as they've got older, I've really wanted to go in and swoop right on in and give my opinion and advise. And again, Frankie is younger, so there has to be an element of that, boundaries and all that kind of stuff. But I really agree with what you said, and also back that entirely, like less is more, and
Totally.
trust that she is discovering who she is, and with gorgeous love and support and those boundaries that keep her safe in amongst that, trust that she's just going to become the firecracker that she is growing up to be. And she doesn't have to dampen her spirit, dim her light. And other children aren't always going to feel okay around her. But if we start then trying to interfere and say such, calm down a little bit, yeah, we might do a bit, but what are we actually telling them? What is the message we're actually giving them then?
Yeah.
Stop being who you are, because those children don't like it. And in order for you to fit in and belong, you have to be more like them. Wow, we do that a lot as adults, don't we? So I would
Yeah, it's
say you're on the right track, and it's confronting, and stay with that trust as much as you can, with that level of boundary and love and care.
yeah, I love it. I so agree. I think it's Dr. Shafali who said he doesn't even call her children. They call them the children, and not even as my children. It's the children, and that's maybe a little bit far for me, but I get it. Like I really get it, and I my parenting is just hands off. As like if kids are arguing, they'll figure it out. Like I really just believe in parenting from afar. Not, but just my main role is just to keep them safe. Like that's what I see, and live in my full greatness. I think that's the greatest gift I can give our daughters is like follow my dreams, stay true to my word, stay centered in my heart, do the work myself, break generational trauma, all this stuff. Like that's the greatest gift I can give her. And like any dance party, any bar we go to, I'm like first on the dance floor, and it's often just me and Frankie dancing.
I love
And
that.
I think that's just the greatest gift I can give her, is just like lead by example. I want to come back to what you just shared, because I think one big insight for me is that it took finding myself to realize how lost I was. And I still think that's true about me now. Like I think there's a future version of me that will be like, man, you were so lost. You were pursuing all these things that none of it mattered. I know that's still true about me now, but at least I have awareness of that, right? But I didn't have an awareness of that. I was happy in society's eyes, right? I was successful, had lots of money. I was happy. I party lots. I was the life and soul of the party. But like now have this experience. I'm like, it's night and day in terms of fulfillment and passion and joy and play, like freedom. It's night and day. It's very hard to describe sometimes, but I'm really curious as to like, if you were to speak to someone who doesn't have that awareness, like, because that's what you help people do, right? Is step more into their power and claim their confidence and live with more joy, vibrancy, belief, love, all those things. How do you help people in those phases, and like what to look out for? Because sometimes, yeah, it's almost the curse of sometimes mediocrity or like happiness, of like short-term happiness. What would you say to someone, and what to look out for?
Who are you? Seems to be the most obvious thing to ask somebody when going through this kind of work. You know, that real sense of discovering who you are. But there's something more than that that I'm really curious about when I work with people. It's who aren't you? When you're trying to step into more freedom of expression, love, joy, self-belief, a lot of the time you're stuck in this identity. You're stuck in this fixed version of all the parts of you that have been there before. And those are the parts that generally are keeping us stuck, right? And when we ask somebody, who are you? They will generally share a list of maybe roles rather than character traits. But again, even character traits, like I'm fun, charismatic, I'm, silly, playful, all those kinds of things, they still are kind of labeled. One of the very common ones that we hear about when we talk to people is I'm an introvert or I'm an extrovert. Again, we're labeling ourselves, and I love playing with this idea that we never actually, ever, nor should I ever want to know who I am. I kind of bring that concept to people. It's quite wild because surely in man's search for meaning, this is who am I? What's my purpose? Why are we here? We're constantly kind of like looking for that answer. And the pain and the trauma and the struggle in that is huge. I mean, my goodness. I mean, I was one of those people, and wildly exciting to play in the realms of I'm never going to know who I am and I don't want to, but it's who I'm becoming next that feels more sexy to me. And so when I'm working with somebody in those realms, obviously we will talk about who do you think you are? Who do you think you're not? And we play in that space, and kind of with that conversation, they start to develop that kind of real sense of where maybe they've been holding on to labels and stories and all the things that their mum was that they think, it's really funny. It's such a great question that you've asked me there. And there's something that I think people will relate to who are listening to this. And it's, again, when we're talking about self, and we'll say, oh, I'm like this because my mum was like that. Oh, you've got that trait from your dad or your uncle, and I do it with my kids say it to me all the time. Oh, I'm short-tempered because dad's short-tempered. Sorry, husband, I just said that on a and the way that we like to disassociate ourselves with our own behavior, because we're like, I'm like that because he's like that. And again, we're labeling ourselves from the past because it makes us feel better if we're not acting maybe as really great people. So the first part that we start with anybody is, I call it discover. Let's just discover. Let's go on a journey. Talk about who you are, who you think you are. Who do you think you're not? Who would you like to be? Who don't you want to be? Just playing around in a space with questions like that, particularly with somebody who's never really had that conversation either with themselves or with someone else before. It's like opening this kind of toy box of all these hidden treasures. And as you know, and I know, when we're coaching, we're not giving anybody the answers to themselves. They're discovering it, because right at the bottom of that toy box, is something hidden that is going to bring them so much joy, but they had so many junky plastic things on the top of it that they just couldn't find the toy at the bottom. So that's where we start. It's called, what I like to call it, discover. And it is just getting into that box and pulling it all out and having a play, and all sorts of wonderful things come out that you're not aware of. And yeah, we have to start there, because we have to start. If we're going somewhere, we need to know where we're beginning, don't we, Joel? Otherwise, we can't get in the car and drive.
Yeah, beautiful. What next? I'm really curious after this discovery.
Yeah, well, then it's holy schmoly. What the heck? Did my mouth go like that?
Run.
I could have said 1,000,001 words. Right.
Holy schmoly, you went with.
Holy schmoly. Oh.
Whoopsie daisy.
Yeah, now it's time to release. Really feel. Because that's going to bring up, it's like I kind of imagine it to well. And in that well is all of this stuff at the bottom, and it's just been sat there for years. Wells are abundant, they're like a source of water, a source of energy, and a source of life. But if they're left alone for too long and not tended, there's going to be loads of stuff at the bottom that is nasty. And it's like all of a sudden we've got the bucket and we've just swirled it all around. And that's when the body goes into a bit of chaos. That's why a lot of people don't want to do this type of work. It's why it's confronting. So we have to start to feel what we feel when all of these things come up. We have to start to really feel them. How do we do that? We get into the body, because most of it's all up there, isn't it? No, I'm not. That's not who I am. How dare you? I'm going to slam this Zoom shut. We're going to end this conversation. I'm not going back there. Ugh, I don't like it. That's how I felt very much when I first started having deep coaching, not just chit chat, fluff, skip around the houses. And so we have to learn how to really, I don't think we ever really let go. I'm not really sure that I love that feeling of letting go, or that phrase. For me, it is more about a release, and we are a bit of a kettle. We boil up again and the bubbles come up again through life. So for me and my clients, I teach them how to move their bodies. I teach them, different breathing techniques. You and I love to dance. I love to cry. I love to sing. I love to shout. I love to punch things. What that feeling is, is it anger? Is it frustration? Is it joy? Whatever it is, it needs to be released. We can't just talk about it. We have to then release it. Maybe there are some actions we need to go and take also. There is the release, but then there's the practical side. The whole process, if it's not just about talking and discovering who you are, it's like, well, how does that play into where I'm going? And who would I be being if I discovered that version of me and I was able to release all of that stuff that's not working, all of those stories of yesteryear that it's never going to happen and I'm not good enough and people don't like me and I'm stupid, and gosh, so many bags that we carry. So we're going to stir up that pot. We're going to talk about who you are, who you're not, who you're being when you feel like you're at your greatest and when you're at your worst. And we're going to love on all of you. And then we're going to release it. We're going to move the body and we're going to keep on doing that. And that's daily work. I had to do a lot of it today. The new moon, the moon energy and everything today. I was like, oh, I'm having a meltdown. I've got to do something. So I tapped. I really tapped my body and I really played around and woke myself up and got myself out of here, because that's where it's all stuck. And this is the start of the journey. And it's so gorgeous and freeing and fun. It has to be fun, otherwise it's not worth it.
Excuse me for interrupting the show, but I wanted to ask you, have you subscribed yet? I ask because this is a brand new podcast and it will really help me out in my mission to spread coaching as far and wide as possible. I truly believe that coaching can change the world, and your simple subscription helps me out more than you realize. So thank you for your help in advance. And if you feel like this episode might help a friend out or another coach, then go ahead and share it. Thanks in advance, and let's get back into the show.
Yeah, totally. There's so much that comes up for me. A big insight I'm having recently is, and I think perhaps I haven't really thought about this for too long. There's, if I reflect on my journey, there was like two phases so far to it. Like I've got many, many more phases, but the first phase for me, it felt like it was about creation and about doing and about goal setting and about habits and becoming someone or creating who I wanted to be. It was almost, I built this statue. I put the pieces together to build who I wanted to be, and it worked. Like I'm here now because of it. But something I'm realizing more recently in the last maybe 6 months or so, and especially now I'm diving into Taoism and Michael Singer as well as someone who I really respect, and Alistair Gray, my other coach or my coach, is actually it's what I'm learning is it's more about letting go, like, or releasing, and actually coming back to my innate state of like the like what I am right at the back, which is just love. It's consciousness. It's awareness. And in the Tao Te Ching, I can't remember exactly which verse, but it says essentially, when you look at the ocean, you think you're the ocean. We think we're the ocean, i.e., the content. We think we're that experience, or we think that we're that moment. But actually, we are the seabed. We're the ocean bed. We're the thing that so. And if you think of an ocean, it all comes, like all the rain, all the water from a mountain. It comes eventually into the ocean. So all we're doing is just expanding our consciousness. And it's sort of, when I couple that with a very simple, very profound insight from Alan Watts, who says it's so obvious what our purpose is. Our purpose is to simply live.
I find it though, Joel. I don't know where it is. I've been looking for it for so long. Can you teach me how to find it?
Yeah. And where are you in that? Because I'm going through a phase right now where I'm almost completely learning to live again. Especially right now, like I've gone through the last 6 months, 3 months, I've kind of been living the hangover of my past self, who had this idea that I didn't have enough. So I needed to create, I needed to go blah, 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 blah. And I was living the hangover of it. And my life was very full, very busy. And I achieved a lot from it. But I'm now stepping into this new life, right, where I am like learning to live again, and I am so lost in it. And I'm, voice noting Alistair, like, so how do I do this again? And it's
How?
sort of, I'm waking up and I'm like, and he's just, but when I actually fully surrender and ask for guidance and trust, it's so obvious, and it's like laughable sometimes that my mind thinks that it knows better. And I've been laughing myself these last 2 weeks because I get lost and I remember, and I get lost and I remember. But where are you on that journey of, like, I'm really curious, like, how do you live? How do you navigate your day? And like, how do you remember, and what's that journey like for you?
I love what you shared there about the hangover. It's like you're recovering from a mega hangover that was kind of, I don't know, years.
Yeah. Well, just on that, like it's one of the hardest things, right? Because our current reality is an outcome of our level of consciousness the last 90 days. And like sometimes I look at my calendar, I'm like, fucking hell, Joe, why did you put this in 3 weeks ago? But like that was the level of my consciousness then.
Yeah.
And it's like trying to remember. So yeah, I think it's a very profound insight for me.
I think
Yeah.
to that point, you are always playing catch up, aren't you? That's just the way that it goes. This year has been probably the most transformational year of my entire life. And I feel very much now I'm in my season of rest. Now there's a real wrestle in that, because I think when we think of rest, we just think of kicking back, laying on a beach, reading in the day, looking at the sky, sleeping lots, generally this idea of unproductivity. But actually, this season of rest for me is it's still productive, I'm very, very much still in that kind of masculine energy. I still have a level of there is stuff that I need to do, but rest and surrender and flow are my day. For example, I don't start work, and I say that in inverted commas because you and I both know that that's a construct, so we can make work whatever we want work to be. I don't actually sit down normally till 11 in the morning. That is wild for me, Joel. I started my working life at 14. I am now 51. I've worked for the man and women too, getting up at 6 a.m., going to work, everything scheduled, coming home, making the dinner, going to bed. So this season where I'm in this part of my life where I now work for myself, I wrestle daily with the idea that this is what it gets to look like in my season of rest, because there is layers and layers and layers and years and years and years and years and years of habituation where it says, that's not what you do. That's not going to be that. That's not what people do. That's not how they earn money. That's not what you're supposed to do, Nina. And so there's lots of dancing backwards and forwards. And just like you said, I have to remember daily that this is what I choose. I get to wake up at this time. I wake up at 6 every morning and I do my 5 reflection questions. What am I grateful for? Happen to make today great? What do I need to let go of? And here's the best question. What will I want to hear at the end? And that's me connecting to my mortality every single day. So I start there and then I go out with my dogs and I always grind fresh coffee beans and I have a really nice chat to my husband. I generally exercise. I've got a treadmill. Sometimes I do weights. Sometimes I do cardio. Sometimes I stretch. Like, I remember when we did a workshop together and you introduced me to this idea of your perfect average day. I thought, we can't have that until you've got X. But the invitation in your workshop was to really look at, well, how could I create that now? How can I reverse engineer? And actually, I remember writing lots of stuff down and thinking, yeah, I'm already doing that. And yet, this is the challenge that we face as human beings. Society, the world, constructs, parents, norms make us believe that we can't. So even though I've been working since I was 14 and I'm now 51 and I'm in my season of rest, I still want magic in my business. I still enjoy money, going places, doing things, having experience. I'm very committed to community and service and giving back. Yet I'm so mindful of my own energy, my own time, my own emotional well-being. And I absolutely resonate with you when I look back at my calendar and I've booked something in, and that's the work that I've really been doing. I've really been working on my boundaries around saying no. That, Joel, saying no without having to back it up with a reason. Saying no to something, even if I've got space in my calendar. Somebody recently invited me to something this morning, actually. So this is really, really, really prevalent in my life. Normally the old version of me that wasn't in my rest season, that was people pleasing, worrying about what everyone thought about me. I got this message this morning on WhatsApp and I would have gone, yep, I'm coming instantly, Joel. That old version of me that wants to be loved, liked everywhere in case I miss out, in case I don't belong and then I die, would have gone, yep, I'm going to be there. And this morning I looked at it and I caught it. I was just about to... And then I thought, do I really want to go? Do I really want to be there? And then that version of me went, yeah, but if you don't go, does that mean that that's bad? Are you mean? Does that mean that that person's going to feel hurt? I went into all of that story. And then I sat there and I just separated the story from the reality. Someone's invited me to something and I really need to check in with myself whether I want to be there. And if it's not, and I'm going to swear, so if you've got young children around, watch out. If it's not a gut, fuck yeah, likely not going to go. That's honouring myself. That's honouring my season of rest. But a few months ago, even maybe last year, if you'd have told me like there's a new co-op opening down the road, I probably would have gone. I'll be there.
Yeah. I love that. I think the awareness of the season you're in is some of the most like underestimated awareness. In fact, it's one of the two questions I ask my clients often is, what season are you in? What are you optimizing for? Like, what's important to you? Because I think this is my opinion, is that a feeling, a sense that we're all seeking is a feeling of alignment, of flow, of really that alignment. For me, I feel so aligned right now, alive, like just limitless. And it's because I'm totally aligned, and I'm really aligned with the season I'm in, but also like what I'm optimizing for and what's important to me. And I'm trusting that. What does it feel like to you? What does it feel like to you, actually, more importantly, when you're out of alignment? And like, how do you tune into that? Because one thing I'm really noticing about myself, right, is that it's all in the nuance. Like the more I expand my consciousness, the more I realize like it's in the nuance. So for me, a lot of my struggles have actually been created in when I'm at my best, because I can get very excitable and really like, but often that kind of comes into ego, and then it's like rushed energy, urgent energy. And actually excitement is a very dangerous energy for me. And it's in the nuance of like excitement, I need to really slow down. And I'm realizing that actually it's in the nuance of these things, and finding like, so I'll give you an example. Last week I got really excited by this new offer, and like within a day I'd mapped it all out, and I was like, built a whole campaign for it in the next 3 weeks. Felt really excited by it. And then my mentor said, for me, if I don't know, it's a no. And I was like, oof, it's like, poof, hit me straight, slapped me in the face. Because I was like 99, 98% sure with this offer. I was like, but I'm not 100%. As you say, if it's not a fuck yes, it's a no.
Yeah.
And I was like, it's a no then. I was like, wow, it's a no. And as soon as I realized that, my shoulders went, I relaxed. And what I'm realizing is when I'm in my higher self, when I'm rooted in my heart, there's no rush, there's no urgency, and time slows right down. I'm realizing this. When you're in the ego, it's like rushed, got to get it done. It's like we have so much time.
Yeah.
I think it's the greatest illusion there is. We have so much time. If you know, an hour in pure presence, you can solve it all.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm really curious as to like what it feels like to you when you're out of alignment. You've acknowledged that it is a season of rest, and as an ambitious person that you are, that has all these things that you want to create and do and experience. How does it feel like when you forget about the season you're in, and what does that feel like to you?
What you said then it's the first place is the feeling. Okay, so there's definitely something in the body. So it will be something quite subtle. I might stop sleeping well. I might be quite restless. I sleep quite well, but I might start to become quite restless. Notice that I start losing presence. So I start to get this kind of sense that I'm there, but I'm not there. I'll be in a room and my husband will be talking to me and I'm not really listening. I'm in the room, but I'm not really listening. And my purpose is to spread more love, light, positivity, and joy, because it's who I am, it's what I do, and it's effortless to me, even though it creates energy to make that. And how I know when I'm not acting in alignment is when I start feeling low, I start feeling sad, I start going into story like, oh God, the world's a scary place and what's the point? That comes in very, very quickly for me because it's a very, very familiar pattern. So my body is always telling me way before my mind is, but because I've been working on this for quite some time now. I'm now aware of when it starts happening. Like my husband today, we were chatting and I said, I feel really off. Couldn't quite put my finger on it, but I knew like I'm in my season of rest, but there's this part of me that's still going, go, 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 Nina, go, go, go. I could have easily just sat and opened my computer and just started going, and, like acting from that place. This is what I do. And I had to mindfully, and this is where it takes the effort, the self-awareness, go, stop, slow down, go upstairs and get your journal out. So I went upstairs and I listened to some really gorgeous classical music and I just had this big brain dump. I just put everything out, connected to my heart, felt what I felt, and I just got it out on paper. Lo and behold, this afternoon, I feel easy breezy. But it's when I know I'm wrestling with myself, when I know I've got those two, we see it in the Disney kind of like the cartoons, in the Mickey Mouse cartoons or whatever. You've got like the little devil, hey, come on, you should be doing that, and come on, blah, blah, blah. And then there's that side. No, it's okay, just chill, you're all right, you've got all the time you need. It's when those two start having a bit of a slanging match. And because I've really worked deeply, I believe myself to be incredibly self-aware, sometimes a blessing, sometimes not quite so much of a blessing. It's when those two start wrestling, that's when I start getting heart palpitations. I stop sleeping well. I start not honoring myself. Exercise slips out the door. I go back into habit or pattern. I'm scrolling a lot. So it's just recognizing, I think, if anyone's listening for this podcast and they're kind of thinking, yeah, okay, I get this. It's when you start slipping back into things that aren't serving you, but you're just aware. So what you do is you catch them, you don't make yourself wrong, and you bring that level of awareness to them and you get really, really curious and start asking yourself some deeper questions. But yeah, it's always a bodily thing for me. Then normally that starts coming out in action. Then I know, right, okay, this is what needs to happen now. Who am I being? Where's that come from? Why am I acting that way? Those are the juicy things. But yeah, that was a great question, Joel.
Beautiful. Yeah, I love your response. It's just coming back to that season. I think this is one of my biggest learnings from Taoism is how, in essence, I think Taoism is about learning from nature. And I feel I'm very simple sometimes, but like, how are we different to a bee? Okay, we've got thought, we've got an awareness of thought, we've got metacognition, but like, if you actually zoom out far enough, we are a bee, we are a tree, we are a frog. I'm a frog. And I was saying this to my clients the other day and just pissing myself with laughter, but it's kind of true. And I think we can learn so much from observing nature. In Taoism, they say, there's a season for everything. There's a season to be behind, there's a season to be ahead. We have to be behind to realize what being behind's like, to actually create the contrast of wanting to be ahead again. We need to there's a time to rest, there's a time for intensity. And also there's a quote of nature doesn't rush, but it leaves nothing undone. And I've taken so much from that. But it takes a lot, as you say, so much deconditioning, because we are so conditioned to be always on. I think there's one tool that I've used, which is using my emotions as a barometer for the quality of my thinking. So I'm deeply connected to my body. My body will tell me first exactly what you say. So noticing, okay, I'm feeling anxious, then I'll notice my thoughts. And if I'm feeling anxious, I cannot trust my thoughts. So for me, I just simply do the opposite. So if my thoughts are saying I work harder, I literally close my laptop and I go for a walk, or close my laptop and sit
I
on the
love
hammock.
that.
Like instant. I don't even think about it. It's so obvious. It's like, your thoughts are telling you to work harder. I need to stop working.
Right.
And it's that awareness, and then choosing a different response.
Yeah.
I want to shift gears a little bit, unless there's anything you want to speak to on that.
No,
But I want
it's
to shift.
great. No, it's all
I
just
want to
so
shift.
juicy.
Yeah. I because you work a lot with your clients around confidence and belief. Before we get into the quick fire, I'm curious, like, what have you learned about confidence and creating confidence and becoming a confident person? And obviously know it's so linked to everything we've shared,
Mm.
but yeah. And I know it's a big question, but I'm intentionally big.
Learn that confidence feels like shit
Mm.
because you have to go through the shit to feel confident. And I
Yeah.
think that a lot of people might look at a confident person, or they might have an idea of what a confident person, like a lot of people come to me and they say, I'm really lacking in confidence. So I might say, well, you tell me, what do you think a confident, what traits does a confident person have? And most people are, that we're loud and we take lots of action, but you can be quietly confident. But it's never ever without the presence of fear. All of the times in my life that I have grown to a new level of confidence, self-assuredness, self-belief, have all come from different events in my life that have been deeply uncomfortable and really shitty. And obviously, sometimes confidence gets layered when we do other things like speaking engagements and getting on a plane and flying around the world. But there's discomfort in that, there.
Mm-hmm.
So that's, I think, the main thing, that there isn't one without the other. And I also believe that you're not born, people think, well, you're just born that way. You're just like it. Well, yeah, we are. We are all born whole, complete, and enough. And within that is this level of I am worthy, I am whole, I am, all the things that we then forget as life goes on and on and on. So we believe that, like a muscle, confidence is there to be worked. And it excites me when I start feeling wobbly and uncomfortable and I start doubting
Mm-hmm.
myself, because I know on the other side of that, woo, we've got some next level
Mm-hmm.
shizzle that we're about to go into. And that is the dance. That is getting on the dance floor first. That is listening. Oh my God, there's Whitney Houston playing. Oh, I want to dance with somebody, and going, I really like this song, but it's really cheesy and no one's going to go and dance to it. It is stepping in there and just literally busting moves and not caring, dancing like everyone's watching. See, I've changed that, right? Confidence is dancing like everyone is watching. Not confidence is dancing like no one's watching. Feels good to me. It's like I'm giving it all I've got and I don't care. I'm not going to let that stop me anymore. So for me, now in my life, it's saying what I feel really free to say, like being fully expressed. And what that means is I say what I say. There is not many parts of me anymore that who I am and stop myself from saying stuff like swearing. Most of the time I just do it now because it's who I am, and I can't live a life where I'm not being me. And for everyone that I work with, it's the accountability in that space, is because if you want to be more confident, there's going to be some really shit scary actions that you're going to have to take. Because most people are saying to themselves, Joel, I want that, but I don't want it. They're sending out mixed messages to the universe. I want that, but I'm afraid of it. So I'm not going to act like it. And I'm going to wait for some mysterious things to align that all of a sudden I feel great about it. So I'm going to do it. And then that cycle just goes on and on and on and on and on. So I hold a space where if you come in and work with me, you get moving on the things that really scare you, because I'm holding you accountable. You're holding you accountable by being there. And it's going to feel really bumpy. And that's why I'm like the safety belt, the seat belt. And I'm also like, I'm the hype queen. I've called myself the hype queen, Joel, because I'm just like the most enthusiastic, cheerleading supporter for people to wake up every day and feel like they just want to go out there like it's the last day that they had on earth and live a life that feels so great on the inside as it does look on the outside. And what I found with people that I work with, they have lots of stuff and they feel really great generally, but just like me in our story earlier on, there's this fire, this burn inside them, that there's so much more for them, but they're so afraid that when they tap into that magic, it's going to be like unleashing all the animals in London Zoo, and there's going to be pandemonium and you're never going to be able to put them back in the cage. But it's really boring.
Yeah, I love that. I'm curious What, how do you use directness? Because I think, if we speak to the coaches that are listening, I think personally, there's this time for love, there's a time for compassion and empathy and being their cheerleader, of course. But I also think there's a time for directness and tough love and truth slaying. How do you navigate that? And how do you use that dark love, say, or tough love, say?
I think first and foremost, as long as the person that is with you who is receiving that is absolutely abundantly clear that that's what it is, and that the relationship that you have built together is a really safe, respectful place between two sovereign human beings, that they know there is no hierarchy over here. What I often say to my clients, I'm about to ask you a question that I need to ask myself. Are you all right with that? I'm just showing my humanness. Because, ultimately at the end of the day, we are always coaching ourselves, aren't we, Joel? It's just like a magic mirror. Is just like you said, it's directness is coming from the place of getting that person to their truth because they want to get to their truth. And it's not coming from my ego of me trying to be right, of me trying to look good, of me trying to save them. I want to be the hero. I want to save you and make it all go away. And again, also, you have to have somebody with you, Joel, as you know, who is really open to that conversation. So I think the most important part of having tough love conversation is how you set that up. Let that person know. There's somebody that I've been working with now, and I'm now working with her on her third lot of 6 months coaching. So she's been working with me now for 1.5 years, every week. And this time around, it's taken us 1 year to really get to the point now where I just say what it is. And it is so uncomfortable sometimes that, we breathe together after we've said stuff. But it's not uncomfortable to the point where that person is triggered and they feel like I'm overstepping the mark, because that's what relationship does. And without that, there is no directness. I think that relationship part is absolutely key. Mutual respect, how you set it up, and the fact that it's coming from a purity. I think that's what I'm trying to say, not from me just wanting to look great and them going, ah! And believe me, I've done that as a coach.
Yeah.
I've been such a
Yeah.
dick sometimes. And for me, there's a lot of that going on all the time. There's always yeah, you can, no, you can't. And why did you do that? I think here's 2 dirty words that I would never try to use anymore. And it's a tough love conversation that I've had with myself. I'll try. But I'm stopping myself now. If anyone asks me to do something, or if there's anything that I know I need to go and complete, or anything like that at all, Joel, I'm no longer available for the words I'll try. And here's why. It's the biggest get out clause, 101. It basically is like me going, yeah, well, maybe I'll give it a go. I'll try is kind of like 2 steps forward, 2 steps back. Here's the ice bath, Nina. Do you think you'll give it a go? I'll try. I'm already committing to not giving it a go by saying I'll try. It's either a fuck yeah or a no. I'm trying to own it. And that's a very tough love conversation to have with yourself, because we love, God loves a trier, as people say. I'm not available for that with myself anymore. I'm either in or I'm not in. I'm either doing it or I'm not doing it. I'll try is me kidding myself. And I want to have really radically honest conversations with me. And if I'm somebody that's living my truth, and if I'm somebody that's helping people step into their truths, I need to make sure that I am walking the walk and talking the talk. So that is my real tough love conversation lately. And I can see so many parts of my life where I go, I'll try. Does that make any sense to you? Like that kind of, I'll give it a go. I'll try. Yes or no? That's all you need to say.
Yeah, 100% it does. I think one of my principles of living is surrender to the outcome and go all in. It's, I think it was Brené Brown who quoted it, and it's something I've just really aimed to live by. I try to go. I try. There you go.
I go.
I do go all in. You know, of course, sometimes I fail, but my intention is to always go all in if I'm going to say yes. But I love that. I'm definitely going to try and. I'm definitely. There
I'll
you go.
try.
I'm going to
I'll
catch
try
my.
and
I
do
will
that.
try. I will try and do that. No, I won't.
And the
Load of rubbish. No, I will do that.
The scary part in that,
exactly.
Joel, the really, really scary part in that is in that going all in or not going all in, it's the committal or non-committal, to be okay with stepping into the void and getting it all wrong. For most people, certainly for me still, and was a lot more than it is now, the most challenging part, because of all the what ifs, it doesn't work out. Well, you know, in my world now, it's what if it all works out? That's the game that I'm playing on the inside now. You know, I've recently been through like a really big health journey, and the one phrase that I used all the way throughout, you know, going through the journey with my health that I went through is, what if it all works out? You know? And honestly, that really got me through. You know, it wasn't in the realms of maybe it will, or I'll try, I'll give it a go. What if it all works out? And it did, because when I focused on that, when I started to believe it, when I created it, when I felt it in my body, when I followed that golden thread of it all going up the hill rather than down the hill, it works. Everything's okay. I'm well, you know. So that's kind of why I think people like to play. And again, this isn't a conscious thing. It's not that people are consciously choosing to play that game or live in that place. It's, you know, our biology is hardwired to keep us safe and to survive. So our biology is kicking in survival, and I'll try is the way that we survive. Because what if I get eaten by the scary lion, tiger, bear that's outside my cave? I'll try and poke my head out. But if I commit to poking my head out, it's going to get chopped off. Oh dear. Oh dear. So yeah, I think that's why people get stuck in the land of I'll try. Certainly I know I did.
Yeah, totally. I think with coaches, there's it's a thing that holds back a lot of coaches, because there's a lot of pressure that can come with becoming a coach, especially when you have this insight of it's my calling, it's the only thing I want to do, this love of coaching. I hear a lot of coaches who, with that, they fear going all in, because what if I go all in and then I fail? What if I'm let with what am I left with then?
Yeah.
But I know it's corny, is very trite, but it's like you just cannot fail when you go all in. Like you just cannot fail.
Yeah.
Ever.
What's brilliant about that is, you know, coaches feel like that, but so do all of our clients. That, you know, when you're a coach, you know, the people that come to work with me on their self-belief and confidence, again, they're feeling exactly the same way. What if I commit to this? What if I do this? And they're just, I'd say they're more scared, a lot of them, of it working out than it not working out. Because if it doesn't work out, okay, they stay where they are and they've spent money. But what if it does and I become a different person? And then how is that going to work in my relationship? How's that going to work in the job that I hate? Because I'm going to hate it even more. What about my husband? What about my friends? And I certainly know that on my journey, I felt incredibly disconnected to my friends at times. You know, like my core group of girls that I absolutely love and adore, that I've grown up with. And, you know, we've been 20 odd years friends. When I started to really peel back the layers of the onion for me, oh my goodness, it was so confronting. I literally was grieving relationships and friendships. But actually now I've come full circle. You know, I've done the work around there. They're my me. But it's so confronting when you start to develop a new way of being and letting go of that old identity, because it's who we've clung on to. It's like a life raft bobbing around in the North Sea. And, you know, we're asking ourselves to let go. And that's why I think it's so much in the relationship of a community or a coach or a mentor or somebody that's not only been through that journey themselves, that they can hold you in that space from that place of knowing. Yeah.
Yeah, beautiful. I want to come to the final quickfire questions. So just 4 quickfire questions. The first is, what advice would you give to the version of you that just started coaching?
So seriously. I scrolled back today and looked at my old Instagram, and it is so cringe. And I remember like the poses and the faces and all that. And, bless old Nina for doing that. She was having a good go. But yeah, stop taking yourself too seriously and have fun.
What would your future self give you now?
Keep going, Nina. Seeing your light. Even when it doesn't look like it, your message is being heard.
Amen to that. I'll echo that. Thirdly, what is your favorite coaching question?
All the money, time in the world, and you couldn't fail, what would you do next? All the time, and there was no fear, you couldn't fail, what would you do next?
Love it. And finally, if you could broadcast one message to the whole world, what would it be?
Wake up. Yeah, wake up. Start living like you're going to die. And more joy starts looking for you. Like life is way too fucking short to waste it being miserable and worrying about what happened yesterday. There you go. That would be my broadcast. Poor people waking up every day to that, but hey ho.
Yes. Yeah. Someone give Nina that space on BBC One.
Yeah.
One day. Beautiful, Nina. Thank you so much for sharing the space together. It's always such a pleasure. And just excited for our relationship to continue and to see what you can create with the light that you are and everything you are. So I love you so much, and thank you so much for this time together.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for listening to today's episode. I really hope you enjoyed it. And if you did, go ahead and share it with a friend, a coach, or anyone that you feel could benefit. It helps them out, it helps me out. And I think it's just a kind thing to do. And if you haven't, make sure you're subscribed. I'm just getting started with this podcast. I've got so many amazing episodes, so much value, so many guests planned. It's really my goal to make this the one place you want to come to for all things coaching and the business of coaching. And come say hi, send me a message on Instagram. I don't bite hard. I don't bite. I am friendly, and I'd love to meet you and answer any questions that you have and just have a good conversation. And would love to hear your thoughts on today's episodes too. Anyway, I will see you around, sending you so much love, and have a beautiful rest of your day.